going to read the resolution so we can even do the meeting. So the action item is I move that we adopt the resolution for 2002 to find need to conduct the meeting by electronic communication means during the governor's declared state of emergency because of the COVID-19 pandemic. I make a motion to do that. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
Who said the second? Who said second?
Delegate Rome.
Delegate Rome. Hi, Danica. How are you? Motion and a seconded. I will just say if anyone is opposed to that motion, please say you are opposed. Okay, that motion will pass unanimously. And from what I understand, we literally have everybody in the meeting today. So I'm going to go in and call roll. Mayor Parrish.
Here.
Chairman McKay.
Here.
Chair Wheeler.
Here.
Board Member Crystal.
Here.
Mayor Wilson. Councilman Snyder.
Here.
Jeanette Rischel was in the room with me.
Here.
Mayor Meyer.
Here.
Ms. Hines.
Here.
Delegate Watts. Delegate Watts, I'm going to come to you just in a couple of seconds to say some things I want to say to you. Delegate Rome.
Here.
Mr. Kolb.
Here.
Mayor Wood. Mayor Wood, I saw you. I know you're here. Mayor Wood, you got to take yourself off mute, my friend Derek. Okay, but he's, I know I saw him here. Okay, he gave me the thumbs up. I will take that. Ms. Curbo. Ms. Curbo, is she here? Is she on?
Here.
And Mr. Horsley.
Here.
All right, thank you, everybody. I wanted to take just a moment, if you don't mind, just a point of privilege. Ms. Rome and Ms. Watts are joining us now. Ms. Rome was with us last time. Ms. Watts is with us this meeting. And first of all, welcome you both to the NVTA. And all love to you, Danica, but I'm going to say some things to Ms. Watts right now, if you don't mind. Vivian, there is literally nobody else in Virginia who probably knows as much about transportation as you do. And I remember hearing that you were going to be on the committee with me, and I thought, you know, I was a little worried when Marty left because he was such a great NVTA chair. But then I got to have you, and to be able to learn under you about these issues is just fantastic. And so I don't know if you asked to be here or if you were told to be here. But I am so glad you're on this authority with us, and I think you can teach us so much. And I'm going to be calling on you a lot for help, so just expect that, ma'am. So welcome.
Your very, very, very kind remarks, Chairman Randall. But yes, I absolutely asked to be here. I have asked repeatedly over the years.
I didn't know that. I wasn't aware of that.
Well, there are a lot of reasons why I feel I'm so glad that I have this opportunity at this particular time to just blend my knowledge with one of the reasons why I wanted to be on was to continue to apply and learn about current of how all of this is working out after so many decades of recognizing that regional transportation solutions were the way we had to go. So my thank you for all of you who've carried the banner in so many ways, and I'm glad to put my hand on it too. Thanks.
Thank you. So you should also know, everybody else, including you, Ms. Rome, that Ms. Watts is the only person I'm going to give deference to and not mess with. Everybody else, I'm going to mess with all of y'all just because that's makes my evening go faster and it's fun. So everyone else gets that from me, but she doesn't. Well, maybe Mr. Parrish, but everybody else will. Okay, so before we do anything else, let's do I have a motion to approve if everyone has seen the minutes? If you were present, do I have anyone who has any issues with the minutes from the last minute for all of you who were here?
McKay moves approval.
Second from Rischel.
Approval from Ms. McKay, second from Rischel. Now, although it's going to take a longer time, I have to do this by roll call vote because some people weren't here last time and will have to abstain. And so from here on out, for all discussion on motions and motions themselves, I'm going to do roll call votes. It takes a little longer. I know. I apologize for that, but it's the only way to know like who's doing what for discussion and vote. Okay. So is there a discussion on the motion to approve the minutes? Mr. Parrish, discussion on the motion?
Not I.
McKay would approve it. Did we get a second to the motion?
Ms. Rochelle.
I'm sorry, Mr. Shell. Okay. Do we discussion on the motion? Chair Wheeler,
I'm good. No, thank you.
Ms. Crystal,
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Wilson,
No discussion.
Mr. Snyder,
No discussion.
Mayor Rischel, Mr. Meyer,
No discussion.
Ms. Hayes,
No discussion.
and Delegate Watts wasn't there last time, so she wouldn't have discussion. Delegate Rome,
No discussion, Madam Chair.
Mr. Kolb,
No discussion.
Mayor Wood. Oh, actually, were you here last time, Mayor Wood? You were. Yeah, Mayor Wood. You see, saying no, thumbs up. Does Derek just not know how to work his mic, or did we just all heard Derek talk enough, and we just tired of hearing Derek talk, so his mic's not going to work anymore?
Oh, wait a second. Hold on.
All right, Ms. Curvo
Discussion.
and Mr. Horsley.
No discussion.
All right, all in favor? So I'll do it like this. The exception of Ms. Watts, who wasn't here last night. Do we have anyone opposed to this passing at this time? Seeing none, that motion will pass 15-01 with Ms. Delegate Watts abstaining because she was not here. We have completed action item number 1 on the agenda. The second action item is approval of project agreement for the town of Leesburg Regional Funding 2018-051. Is that me?
That's my computer, probably.
Okay, that's one.
Mayor Wood. That is Mike, I guess.
That's Mayor Wood's mic. You sound like Mickey Mouse. You want to turn your mic back off? Approval of project agreement. Mr. Loney, do you have any statements?
No, ma'am.
Anyone have any questions? Hold on, everybody. This is good.
You're probably hearing it because you're talking and you have your headphones on. Mayor Wood, Ms. Corvo, and Mr. Horsley.
Okay. No, it's gone. The echo's gone now. All right. Is there, so since this is in the town of Leesburg, it's a town item, I can make a motion on it, or being the town rep, Mayor Wood, would you like to make a motion on this item since you're the town rep? Okay, you know what? I'll make the motion. I don't know what that is, but I'll make the motion. I move the approval of the proposed standard project agreement 2018-056-1 Town of Leesburg interchange at Route 15 bypass and Battlefield Parkway in accordance with the NVTA approved project design sheet and as a bit appended by the standard project agreement, and authorize the executive director to sign on behalf of the authority. That is the motion. Do I have a second on the motion?
Madam Chair, seconded. Katie Crystal.
Seconded by Ms. Crystal. Discussion on the motion. Mayor Parrott,
Nothing here.
Chairman McKay. Chairman McKay. Chair Wheeler.
Nothing here.
Board Member Crystal.
No, thank you.
Mayor Wilson.
Nothing from here.
Councilman Snyder.
No discussion, thanks.
Mayor Rischel.
No discussion.
Ms. Hines. Watts. Delegate Rome.
No discussion, Madam Chair.
Mr. Kolb.
No discussion.
Ms. Curvo. I know, but he sounds like Mickey Mouse. I can't go to him. Ms. Horsley.
No discussion.
Wood. What is that? Seriously, what is going on there? How do you sound to yourself? Because you can't talk mute him. It does. All right. The only thing I would say about this is that the Route 15 bypass in Battlefield Parkway interchange in Loudoun County is one of the first things I started working on, probably literally my second meeting on the authority. And so I'm glad that we're moving forward with this. Sometimes Loudoun County can seem pretty far out, as can Prince William County sometime for when we talk about Northern Virginia. But this interchange actually carries a lot of people who might be coming in from not just Loudoun County, but also from West Virginia and Maryland because of the route through Loudoun County. So it is a major regional intersection for us, and one of our main choke areas when you're coming down Route 7 at that bypass. And so I appreciate the authority. Moving this forward, and I will make sure that the town of Leesburg is aware. So all in favor, please say aye, or how's this? If there's anyone not in favor, please make that known right now. All right. Seeing none, that motion will pass 13-0. All right. The next item on the agenda is just 1 second. Okay, hold on. I've lost my place in the agenda. Okay. Approval of reallocation of Prince William County FY 2020 RSDP funds from Route 234, Route 1 interchange, and Peony Road only. It's a UPC 13525 to Smoketown Road, Opitz Boulevard Pedestrian Improvement Project, UPC 107-528. Ms. Bachman, did you guys does staff have any discussion on this item?
No, Chair Randall, the only thing I would add is that this is coming before the authority because the receiver project is a project that has not been previously vetted through the authority regarding the receipt of Regional Surface Transportation Program funds. But this did go before the RJAC. They recommended approval on May 20th, so we are requesting approval on it.
Thank you, ma'am. Being that this is in Prince William County, I will ask Ms. Wheeler if she'd like to make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion.
Have the motion in front of you. Okay.
Approval of RSTP transfer request for Prince William County, as you've stated previously.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Hal Parrish here. I'd like to second that motion.
Motion's been made by Chair Wheeler, second by Mayor Parrish. Discussion on the motion. Mr. Parrish? I'm sorry, discussion on the motion, Ms. Wheeler.
I'm good.
Mayor Parrish?
None here.
Mr. McKay? No, Mr. McKay, we can't hear you either, Jeff. Okay.
No discussion.
Thank you, sir. Board Member Crystal?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Mayor Wilson?
Nope, no discussion.
Councilman Snyder?
No discussion, thanks.
Mayor Rischel?
No discussion.
Mayor Meyer?
No discussion.
Ms. Hines?
No discussion.
Delegate Watts? Delegate Watts, no? Okay. Delegate Rome?
No discussion, Madam Chair.
Mr. Kolb?
No discussion.
Mickey Mouse? Is he still there?
No discussion. Can you hear me?
There you are. There you are.
Hey, hey.
Hey, welcome to the meeting. Welcome to the meeting, Mr. Wood.
Thanks for having me.
Okay. Ms. Cuervo? Mr. Horsley?
No discussion.
All right. All in favor, please say aye. And if you are not in favor, please make that known by saying no, and otherwise we'll consider your aye. Seeing none, that motion will pass 13-0. All right, that was our last action item. Everything else is a discussion or information item. So I'm going to ask the meeting to Ms. Beckman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. your item 7 regarding discussion is an update on your FY 2025 6-year program. So just to recap, at your March 12th meeting, which seems like a lifetime ago, the authority authorized the release of 41 candidate projects for evaluation and consideration for public comment. The public comment period started on Friday, March 13th, and ended on midnight on Sunday, May the 24th. We also held a public hearing on May the 14th. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we had our first ever electronic public hearing. So what we had, of course, with the live streaming, but we asked citizens to pre-register for us to call them if they would like to give testimony over the phone. We also had the option of citizens coming to the authority's offices to provide testimony. Although discouraged, we did have that option. We had one citizen who braved it and attended the meeting in person to give public testimony. And we also had about 27 call-in for the public hearing. Additionally, regarding the public comments received, in this packet, as part of this item, we have a draft summary of the approximately 1,000 public comments that were received by the deadline. And I would like to note approximately 90% of the comments received during this time were associated with 4 projects. Ooh, that's disruptive. The 4 projects are the Arlington WOND trail enhancements. Most of the comments were supportive of the application, but with concerns expressed related to environmental considerations, alternatives analysis, insufficient community engagement, and need. We also received a lot of comments regarding the Van Buren Road North extension, which is in Prince William County. And we received opposition and support, and they were broadly equal in number. We received a lot of comments in support of the West Falls Church access to transit and multimodal connectivity. Comments expressed, again, were overwhelming in support of the application. And we also received overwhelming support for the downtown Falls Church multimodal improvements. Comments, again, expressed overwhelming support of the application, but it wasn't as much support as the West Falls Church Access Project. So even though our deadline was midnight, May the 24th, we received a lot of comments after the deadline. Due to time constraints and trying to get the packet out in a timely fashion, the comments are not included in the summary report. However, these comments will be a part of the public record. And since we did get dispatched out last Friday for tonight's meeting, staff has had an opportunity to go through and evaluate those comments as well. So when we get to your technical advisory committee, your planning coordination advisory committee, and the planning and programming committee meetings, we will have those comments and the analysis of those comments as well. As you may recall, last month at your May 14th meeting, the authority approved an amount of $522,151,962 to populate and fund the update to your 6-year program. I do want to note, even though the 6-year program says FY 20 to 2025, we are really adding fiscal years 24 and 25. The other years, 20 to 23, were included in the inaugural 6-year program. The next steps. Now, I should note, on June 9th, which was this past Tuesday, NVTA staff recommendations on the projects to be funded were posted. However, they are staff recommendations. These recommendations must be considered by your technical advisory committee, who may agree or disagree and have their own recommendations, your planning coordination advisory committee, and the planning and programming committee. These 3 committees met in May, and they were briefed on the process and the summary of comments we received. However, all of 3 committees are meeting in June, with the PCAC and the TAC meeting on the same evening, an hour apart. So we have to really be diligent about that. And then the planning and programming committee will meet next Friday at 5 p.m. The Planning and Programming Committee that meeting is very important because it is the authority's Planning and Programming Committee that makes the final recommendation to the authority. Also, per code, The final draft of the program that will be presented to the authority must be posted 15 days prior to authority action. So your July meeting, I believe is July 9th, we have to make sure that once the Planning and Programming Committee meets next Friday, they make the recommendation, the final recommendation, that we as staff will make any adjustments as necessary, and we will ensure that that final draft recommendation is posted in accordance to the code. Lastly, again, the adoption of the program is scheduled for July the 9th. We included an attachment that I won't really read through, but in this attachment, you can get detailed information regarding the number of comments received for each project, all 41 projects. I will say there was a project or two that received 0 comments, but we do have on page 2 of the attachment, noting all of the comments received, you can see a breakout, the total number of comments received for each project, the total in support, the total in opposition, and we noted other. We also included just a little example of the comments regarding opposition and support of a project. And lastly, I will say public comment and public involvement is an important part of the process. We do try to make sure that the quantitative analysis and the qualitative analysis is well balanced in making the recommendations. Madam Chair, I end my report.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Authority members, I'm going to go down the line, and if you have questions for Ms. Beckman, you can, or Mr. Parrish, this is the time to ask those questions right now. Or if you have questions for one another, it's the time to do that also. Mr. Parrish, I will come to you last as the Vice Chair of the Authority before I speak myself, but the first person I will go to is Chairman McKay. Do you have any questions, Chairman McKay?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I do. There's a petition that was circulated by a state senator that, frankly, did not have a lot of correct information in it. And I noticed that the results of that were reported, and there were over 1,000 people who signed the petition, and then there were several hundred comments on the petition itself on specific projects. So I'm wondering from staff how that gets computed. It's one source of information because it's coming from one individual, but it has a couple hundred, over 1,000 signatures, and then I guess well over 300 combined comments. So are each one of those comments counted individually on that petition?
And before you answer that question, Ms. Beckman, it's also my understanding that that petition from that state senator actually came in after the deadline. Is that not correct? Okay. All right,
So thank you for that question, Chairman McKay. So that's one of the reasons why it took us a little longer, and we did not have the summary of the comments submitted by Senator Cerevel, because we do have to fact check. We have noticed that there were duplicative comments in certain situations because you could submit your comments electronically over the phone and things of that nature. And then we wanted to just cross-check where the citizens were coming from and making sure that the comments were quote unquote valid, if you will. So it took us a while to go through the comments that we received from Senator Cerevel. But since that time, and since the time of dispatch, we were able to go through them, and we can share them with your committees. We just don't have them on hand tonight because we were still doing a little more fact checking, to be honest. And this is why we do encourage everyone to submit their comments through the processes identified by the authority. That helps us to ensure that your comments are being noted and being noted correctly. Like I said, in some cases, we receive the same comments multiple times. And of course, that can skew the results. So it took us a while to just go through each of those comments to ensure what the comments received were indeed accurate.
Thank you, Ms. Bagman. And if I could follow up for one moment, because unfortunately, how these, to your point about coming through the authority, the way in which some of these things were asked, I mean, all of us elected officials are familiar with surveys, and depending on how you write them, you can generate pretty much what you want. And so I would hope that as we move forward, given the amount of work that you've put into this, that perhaps we can circulate a letter to our elected officials to help us. The one thing I'm happy about with this is that we have someone soliciting comments, but you know, the work that you have to put into verifying the validity of those, and frankly, the content under the questions that were asked to begin with that provoke the response, I'm not sure is doing us the benefit that we want it to. And so maybe a forward-thinking message to all of our elected officials in the region to help us spread the word about getting citizens involved and to comment and linking specifically to the mechanisms you already have in place to get that comment would be much, much more helpful as we move forward. And so I don't think that necessarily requires a motion, but I would hope it's something that we could communicate out to the electeds in the region.
No, thank you for that, Chairman McKay.
Thank you, Mr. McKay. Chair Wheeler, do you have any questions?
No, and I do recognize that, you know, we did have some, back and forth on one of the projects that did not end up on the list, and just sort of acknowledge that. And we're always grateful to have projects on the list. No questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Board Member Crystal?
I don't have questions at this time. I appreciate the thoughtful engagement of Ms. Beckman in particular, discussing some of the difficult trade-offs and the path forward to projects from our jurisdiction or projects from our jurisdiction. We are very much hoping to see, but we are looking forward to working with the authority staff and hopefully the rest of the authority members in bringing that project forward for another day. I also just wanted to make myself available if I can, if anybody has questions about that W&OD project, W&OD Trail project that generated quite a bit of emails and comments. I'm happy to share a little bit about how my colleagues and I have approached it. We did unanimously vote for a letter of support for the project, but can share a little more about what that means. But suffice it to say, very supportive of the staff's recommendation to fund design only to allow us or allow the Parks Authority, because Arlington County is not the applicant, to move that project forward to facilitate a more meaningful discussion about what the trade-offs or opportunities about the project might entail before construction funding is awarded. So I am at your disposal if any other members of the authority have questions about that project, as we heard so many public comments on it.
So, Chair Member Crystal, I appreciate that, because when the time comes for me to ask questions, I actually may have some questions for you around that. All right, thank you, ma'am. Mayor Wilson.
No comments.
Councilman Snyder.
Just thanks to all the citizens who have provided input. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Rischel.
No comments.
Mayor Meyer.
No comments.
Ms. Hines.
No comments.
Delegate Watts. No comments. Can you guys see her? Delegate Rome.
Madam Chair, I do have a comment, if that's okay.
Sure.
Great, thank you. Madam Chair, I would ask Ms. Bachman if she could basically describe the public comments that were coming in regarding the Van Buren Road project, and basically if she could just more or less summarize the major themes in terms of the for and against that we received.
Thank you, Delegate Rome. What I will say that the one, and this is also in your packet, and I don't have all of the comments and spreadsheet in front of me this evening, but one of the supporting comments, and this was typical of the supporting comments we received on the project, was I live in Montclair. Drivers are constantly cutting through our community as a shortcut. They're exceeding speed limits within the community. The area around Montclair has increased dramatically in the last 2 decades with very little infrastructure to allow safe traffic flow. And the citizen noted that they think it's a serious accident in Montclair in the near future is given. There have been several close calls, and please build the Van Buren extension to help alleviate the crowded streets. That's typical of the type of comments we received in favor, support of the project. Noted immediately below that is the typical opposing comment. And it says the proposed road will impact our Four Seasons residential community in a negative way, extremely negative manner. The high volume of traffic expected to use it will create excessive amounts of noise and auto truck pollution, adding to the current volume of noise and pollution generated by I-95 with the traffic and trucks and the 95 way station. It says the development is at the very edge of our community, would also allow potential access to the gated over 55 age restricted community. And lastly, the point was made that there is a substantial amount of wildlife that's in the wooded area adjacent to that Montclair community. The removal of trees to build a road would impact the wildlife and create more air pollution. So we gave you two polar opposites, but both comments really reflect the types of comments we received about this particular project.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ms. Bachman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Watts. Delegate Rome, I'm sorry. Mr. Kolb?
No comments. I just want to echo the thank you to Monica for walking me through some of the questions I had during the week. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Mayor Wood?
No comments. I think I read everything in the package was self-explanatory for me.
Thank you. Ms. Crivo?
Comments.
Mr. Horsley?
No comments.
Mayor Parrish?
No comment.
And so I have a couple of comments, and one is just something for, I think, all of the authority to think about. Just in general, when we have a deadline whereby we say this is the deadline for questions are to be submitted or comments to be submitted, we may want to think about how closely we want to adhere to our deadline. I understand that was a state senator, and I understand that he was compiling his own information. I understand that he put out his own survey. I got all that, but I can be a little bit of a stickler for deadlines, and nothing about him. But if we do that for one person or one entity, we're going to be asked to do that a lot. And so if we have a deadline, we may want to think about taking a motion to extend the deadline if things come in later, or to extend the deadline if it's a person representing a larger number of people. But just to say that we will accept anything that comes in after the deadline, I don't know what's the point of having a deadline. So that's just something for us to think about. That's the first thing. And that doesn't mean I want to throw anything out, because I'm not saying that. I'm just saying going forward, how do we want to handle that? The second thing is, so I do have questions for Ms. Backman and maybe Board Member Crystal about the trail. So Monica, when that night, the night of the public hearing, we received nothing but comments not favorable to the trail the whole night. And it is my understanding that it was a kind of a push after that night to have people send in, other people, the other side of the voice. And that's okay, because that's how you do that. You kind of whip up the votes or whip up the support on the other side. And so it came in with many more people supporting it than not, but that was after the night of the public hearing. Did we know that we captured everyone who was speaking, who spoke to us after the public hearing? And do we know if they all lived in Alexandria or Arlington, or do we know where they lived?
Thank you, Chair Randall. The first part I can answer. The second part I may ask my staff regarding where the residents lived. So I will note, we did hear a lot of comments in opposition to the trail project the night of the public hearing, which was May 14th. However, the public comment period ended on midnight, May the 24th. So as part of the comments received, although some members citizens did not give testimony during the public hearing, they did provide testimony within the time frame allotted by midnight on May the 24th. I would have to check with my staff to see if the comments were residents and citizens of Arlington County. What I will note, since NVTA staff's recommendation was posted, and it is on the website, so this is not inside baseball, it's been shared with the members, staff, and it is on our website. Staff is recommending $650,000 for that particular project. The total request was $5.6 million. We thought recommendation of 650,000, which really gets to some of the design, preliminary engineering, some public involvement, would show, number one, the project has some merit, but it definitely needs a little more coordination with the county, the park authority, and the citizens. And did receive an email from one of the citizens who was really vocal regarding opposition. He said he actually thought that was a fair way to proceed.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. So, Ms. Crystal, I think, let me ask you just about the vote that you all took on the board, just because I need to understand the vote, because I've talked to some people who might be knowledgeable about the vote, and I'm a little confused, and so I just need help to not be confused anymore.
Of course.
So
let me, I'd be happy to try to see if I can help a little bit here, which is.
Let me ask my question first. So.
Please. Oh, sorry, I thought that was.
Was the vote for NVTA to fund the design, and then after we funded the design, if your board did not like the design funding, then you would not fund construction, or what was that vote?
Of course, I'm happy to speak to it, Madam Chair.
Sorry.
So I think that
way to ask. It's like, what was that vote? Tell me the vote.
What the heck's going on? So I want to return to this. This is not an Arlington County project. This is not sponsored by the county. It is sponsored by another entity, the Northern Virginia Parks Authority, for a project that would, of course, have an impact on our jurisdiction. I suspect, although I'm not here to carry water for the Park Authority, that they would make the case. The reason they're applying for regional funding is that it is a regional project. The WNOD connects to other jurisdictions, and it is a pretty major commuting route for residents throughout the region who do commute to the district via Arlington County or through Arlington County by the WNOD. So just want to distinguish Arlington County's role from this project. I don't want any surus around this project to spill back onto Arlington County projects in particular. But so the vote that we took was that the Parks Authority asked for the county's endorsement of the project or support of the project. So I imagine probably not dissimilar from votes taken, for example, by Prince William or Fairfax when the VRE is submitting for a project in their jurisdiction. So we had a pretty extensive discussion about it. Many of the members of the public who came to speak to us at the authority came to the county board as well. And we felt at the time that they had asked a lot of really good questions about, for example, how many trees would be impacted, what would be the impact on the surrounding wildlife or the stormwater area, questions that we weren't able to answer and that Northern Virginia Parks Authority wouldn't be able to answer without the design of the project. So we supported the project coming forward. The application at the time was for both design and construction, but we expressed our intent that Northern Virginia Parks Authority should come back to the county to work with the county, our transportation and park system, perhaps some of our commissions, to really sort of weigh some of those trade-offs against one another. So an endorsement of their full application, but I think staff's recommendation for design only is very consistent. In fact, a really nice match with the discussion that we had at the time.
So at any point in that discussion, in that vote, was Arlington saying that if the Northern Virginia Parks Authority and Arlington approved the design, that Arlington would pay for the construction?
I don't believe there was any commitment of funding from Arlington.
Okay, that is the confusion. That is what came to me. That and so I was thinking, so if you say yes to the design, you will approve the construction money. But if you say no to the design, you won't approve the construction money, which would of course mean that then NVTA would have to ask our money back for the design.
No, that's right. So that is correct. So we are not proposing to fund it. I suspect that at such a time as the design is complete, as is the case with any transit project, that you would likely be trying to find additional sources of funding beyond what they had received from NVTA. It would not be out of step for them to come to Arlington with such an ask, but we've not made one or committed to one at all.
Okay, that makes more sense. I guess my caution is that if the design is funded and Arlington doesn't like the design or the Parks Authority doesn't like the design, NVTA might say, then we need our money back for design because we're not going to, you know what I'm saying? That's possible. And so I just want to put, okay.
Without doubt. And again, I can't speak for the Parks Authority.
Sure.
I think the idea that this project should in some way move forward is consistent with, for example, our bicycle element master plan adopted policy of Arlington County. But I think that the trade-offs around the specifics of it, which sections are widened, what the impacts are all subject absolutely to that public conversation. You're right, yeah, that it could come back to having to return the design money from the Parks Authority.
Okay. All right. That helps a lot. And you're right. When I went through all the comments and read it, and as well as the comments that night, most of the issues were environmental impacts and tree removal. That's the thing we kept hearing both that night and when I read comments later on. Those were the two issues. So that helps a lot because I was getting all this information back, and I didn't watch the meetings. Sometimes I watch you all's meetings because I'm that much of a nerd, right? I watch all of y'all's meetings because I am that much of a nerd, and I watch your meetings too. I am an enormous nerd. I watch meetings, but that night I didn't. So the reports that came back to me, I was like, what just happened over there? So that helps a lot. Okay.
Madam Chair, Madam Chair, Dave Snyder, just a quick comment. We had a similar project in the city of Falls Church that was overwhelmingly supported. The facts, of course, are different. But it is important to keep in mind that what we're talking about here is separating what is increasingly rapid bicycle movements from walking and jogging. So in our case, it was very much a safety issue as much as any other kind of issue. And again, I'm not commenting on a particular factual scenario, except to say that it was deemed to be a very important project on our part of the trail, as it was in order to keep the bicycle traffic separate from the walking traffic. And in fact, we actually had some people that were struck by bicycles and seriously injured. So I just wanted to put that on the record. And just in terms of background, and thank you.
All right, that helps. Thank you. Ms. Watts, I hear you wanted to say something?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. So I need clarification since this is being put forward by Nova Parks. And it's Arlington's project. I just heard from Falls Church. Is there separate going on for Fairfax County where the trail is also very heavily used, especially through Vienna?
Monica, you don't answer that question?
Is this a project that is only going to be undertaken for Arlington?
Oh, I understand your question. Okay.
They do the Fairfax. Thank you, Delegate Watts. So two things. The reason why we want the Park Authority to get endorsement from the Arlington Board, because the project is located in Arlington County, and we wanted to ensure that level of coordination was ongoing. What the Park Authority is trying to do, because you just heard from Mr. Snyder regarding the segment that is underway, the authority is funding in full. They have the segment that they've applied for funds for in Arlington. I had a conversation with their executive director months ago regarding his vision in improving the WNOND trail. However, I don't think all of the segments are located or are in our current transaction plan, which is a precursor to the authority funding any project. So I think he's trying to just, I don't want to say piecemeal, but do what he can at this particular time, because these things do take time, with an ultimate vision to perhaps look at the grand scheme or the wide, the bigger picture of improving the trails throughout.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, it's Mary Hines.
Yes, ma'am.
Delegate Watts, I just wanted to share, and with the rest of the authority, I too had a conversation with the Park Authority Chair and a couple of board members. I would say that they are interested in where it makes sense because of traffic on the trail in moving forward to separate where they can, but they have not done, as is evidenced by this application, they've not necessarily done the kinds of analysis that they need to do in order to justify it. This is a very heavily traveled segment between two metro stations. So anyway, I do believe that's their long-term plan, and I encourage them to start talking to all of us about it. So no one was caught by surprise.
Yep. Okay. Anybody else on this item? Thank you, Ms. Hines. Anybody else on this item? Wonderful. And Ms. Crystal, thank you so much for helping me understand what that vote was. Thank you. Okay, authority members, we're not going to, Mayor Colbert and Mr. Boyce from the Planning and Programming, I'm sorry, Planning Coordination Advisory Committee and the Technical Advisory are not on the line. So we're going to go straight to Mayor Wilson for the Planning and Programming Committee report. So Mayor Wilson, if you're still on the line, if I didn't catch you by surprise, do you have a report to give?
You did catch me by surprise, but I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Thank you, Madam Chair. As Ms. Backman said earlier, the PPC is the most important, prestigious, really the best committee of the NVTA, and I'm pleased to provide the report from the committee. We did meet June 1st, which I believe was 483 days ago, and we had a
That's how important you are. You meet once a year. That's how important.
No, it just feels like the last 11 days have been an eternity, Madam Chair.
483 days.
What's that?
You said 483 days. You mean 10 days.
That's how long it's been since June 1st. We did have a good meeting. Did discuss the 6-year program update and the transaction update. Ms. Backman provided us an update that she just provided all of you on the overall process. We will be meeting on Friday, June 19th, and we'll be making our 6-year plan recommendations to the authority at that meeting. You are welcome to spend Friday night with us if you are interested. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Mayor Wilson, you should know that I was the Planning and Programming Chair last time, so that.
I lost you there, Madam Chair. You said you were the Planning and Programming Chair last time, and then I lost you. We can't hear you.
Okay, you good?
Yeah, now I can hear you. You said you were the Planning and Programming
Chair. I was the Planning and Program Chair last time, which means you're probably up next to be NVTA Chair.
Oh, heck no. Oh, heck no. Yeah, no. No, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I don't know if you recall, but the previous chair was chair for a while, so I believe you have now signed up for a long-term commitment. We measure chair terms in decades.
Evidently.
Was that a motion? Was that a motion?
Yeah, we will talk again.
That was not a motion, Mr. McKay. That was not a motion.
I will be happy to have a conversation with you in 2030. So we'll revisit this topic.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Wilson? Seeing none or hearing none, I'm going to go to the Executive Director's report. Ms. Backman, do you have a report for us, ma'am?
Madam Chair, my report is in the packet. I have nothing to add, just to encourage all authority members, as Mayor Wilson just noted, to attend the June 19th Planning and Programming Committee.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Parrish, as Vice Chair, do you have any, before we, because I don't have any really comments, but Chair comments, do you have any comments that you'd like to make, Mr. Parrish?
Not a thing other than the fact that I look forward to the PPC meeting and the discussion that will take place there, and it'll help guide us toward the future.
It will, as will the finance meetings. Yep.
Yes.
So, yeah. And as far as chair comments, this is the difference between me and Mr. Noe. I don't have comments. I don't need to have comments. I'm fine not having comments. It's absolutely okay with me if I don't have comments. Does anyone else have any comments to make? I would actually only say that I miss seeing you all of you. No kidding. And just for real,
Madam
I miss
Chair,
everybody.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Let me just ask, I think Mr. Longy is probably on here with us. Mr. Longy, are you there? Just to, out of an abundance of caution, of course, we have our authority meeting tonight. When is the next Finance Committee meeting?
It's June 18th.
Okay, and you and I will be talking more about that.
The dispatch goes out tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you.
So authority members, so we in Northern Virginia, we're going to phase 2 tomorrow. It is possible that by July we would be in phase 3. If we are in phase 3 by the July meeting, hopefully we will be doing that in person. We can all hope, and so we'll see if that happens. If no one has anything else for the good of the body, miss you all, and I'll see you all next time. We are adjourned.
All the best.
Miss you too.
Everybody.